It's 50,000, you got to take it out, plus the taxes, right? They're for living, right? So different pools of money for different things. All right, beneficiaries, we talked about that. There's two kinds of beneficiaries, per capita and per stirpes. People come in, we can look at their accounts to make a determination how their beneficiaries are set up. Per capita means if you have 2 children and you say 50-50, right? If one child dies, then the other child gets 100%. Per stirpes would mean, it's a Latin term, it means from the roots. It means if that child were to die, his beneficiaries would get 50%. So it stays in the pot. And that's usually how people do it, but we can go through that and investigate it and see. I put in the inherited IRA formula that I talked about. This is, if somebody is, what did I say, 40, then the life expectancy is 43.6. It's going to be the same thing, December 31st divided by 43.6, right? And then it's going to be December 31st divided by 42.6, 41.6, and it's going to keep going. And eventually, if you outlive your life expectancy, it's going to hit 1. All the money's going to have to come out of the retirement account, and the government's going to get its taxes. Right? That's how IRAs come to an end, because somebody outlives their life expectancy. Okay. So this is what we covered. How much will the IRA be? Additional tax, Social Security tax, ways of offsetting it. What was most important to me, are you allocated for distribution? It is a change in philosophy, and it's important. And the beneficiaries, tax benefits, getting out of the 4 for those kind of things. Okay, so there's 2 more pieces that we have to go through. One, if everyone can grab that blue sheet, this blue sheet right here. That is my schedule for the next 2 weeks. Okay? You'll see that we work during business hours. So if you work, it's just like if you have to go to a doctor, come in a little early, or you leave a little early from work. That is my schedule. Any area that's not blacked off is the time when I'm free. Like I said, we're right up in Wilmington, right on 202. If you don't have your calendar with you, right, you just put in like a 1 and a 2. Emily, who everyone had a phone call from, she's going to call you again tomorrow morning and firm it up, or if you need to change it or anything like that. She has the calendar. She is absolutely in charge of that. So, like I said, if you learned something tonight from this, my commitment to you is that we will sit down for an hour and I will answer any question you want. I will discuss anything you want, and you'll walk out hopefully with details about what's important to you. So just take a minute now to go through that. Check off the time anywhere on there, and then Emily's going to call tomorrow to confirm the time. And also, if you're a couple, I don't need one from each of you. I just, one from per couple is fine, whatever the situation it is. So, now like I said, we only allocate a certain amount of time to this pro bono work because, as I'm sure you all saw, we have another class we're doing next Wednesday. That's another group of people. You guys got first dibs. You were here first. That's the way it works. So, and I'm sure you'll see eventually, like I said, we do a number of classes at different times. So, I'm going to give you just another minute to fill that out. And while you're doing that, I'm going to ask Jerry to come on up. And if you guys look in your folder while you're doing it, you have that cryptic piece of paper. This guy. You just pull that out, and Jerry's going to talk about what a number of people are using. What a number of people are using their RMD for. Okay, and after Jerry's done, everyone has to go through the boss in the room, and that is Emily. She's in charge. And just hand in your sheet, your blue sheet on the way out. Okay, Jerry, you're all good?
Yeah,
You
all
need to do
good.
anything? You're right.
I'm not an encore, I'm not a bonus. I'm just somebody that responds to my clients of over 50 years in the cases of a few, who came to me over the last year and said, we've accumulated these assets over the last 4 decades. How do we keep from losing them? How can we keep these assets? U.S. Health and Human Services Department has stated that the greatest financial risk to the assets you accumulated in your 400 plans, your IRAs, your non-qualified and qualified accounts, what is the greatest risk to those assets?
Tax liability.
Taxes.
Long-term care expenses. That's the #1 risk. Now, long-term care insurance is generally not needed by many people. Many people qualify for Medicaid, or they can spend down and qualify for Medicaid. But if you have assets, you can't make yourself eligible for Medicaid without giving it away. And I'll bet there's not a person in this room that's ready to deliberately give his or her or their assets away so that they can qualify for Medicaid. So how do you keep your assets? The same department says that 70% of individuals over 65 will need some kind of long-term care during the balance of their life. And 20% will need it for at least 5 years or more. Now I'm speaking fast and I'm pushing out some information because we told you we'd be around an hour in our program, and I want to keep it to that. There are many wealthy people who have used what you probably aren't familiar with to self-fund with. The IRS now allows certain life insurance and annuity contracts to be accessed while you're alive. That means go in and get the money while you're alive, tax-free, for expenses associated with long-term care. People with a lot of money have had long-term care plans in place for the last 5 to 10 years. And 97% of Americans aren't even familiar with asset-based or linked benefit long-term care, where all you do is take an asset and reposition it in one of these contracts accepted and approved by the IRS. You do not change your balance sheet. You simply move the asset from where it is to one of these contracts that is approved and create, in the event of long-term care, leveraged dollars. Does everybody know what I mean by leveraged dollars? That's where you take a dollar, and in the event that long-term care needs are throwing off expenses that have to be met, that dollar becomes $3, $4, $5, $6 of tax-free income stream to meet long-term care expenses. My clients brought James and me to this point of finding out how to protect the assets that they've accumulated. Okay, I've already gone 5 minutes, so grab the hieroglyphics page. Ah, it's already in front of you. If there's anything that James and I pride ourselves on, it's that we want our clients and friends to be totally educated regarding retirement. He did RMDs, very necessary part. But how do you not lose your money? One, you properly invest, and two, you insure against long-term care. Or another way of looking at it is, let's take the mountain. On this leg, write accumulation. That's ascending the mountain, getting up the mountain. Your 400 plans, putting money away. Building your accumulated assets. What's the reason we climb a mountain? Get to the top. But what's the ultimate goal? To not only get to the top, but get down safely. Get down the other side of the mountain safely. That's the distribution. And that's what James was primarily talking about. But there's lots of things that can happen here. And that's what we're talking about. You don't have to say any more than raise your hand. Anybody in here? Anybody here begun a self-funding account in the event that you may have long-term care needs in the future? Anybody? Okay. This is your portfolio. Thanks, James.
I have it. I got it.
This is your portfolio. All of your assets, all of your invested assets, whether they be in 400 plans, or they be in a brokerage account, or they be in a piece of real estate in Michigan. Why would anyone want to have a piece of real estate in Michigan? But it's composed of probably an aggressive portion of assets, moderate in allocation into assets, and conservative. Generally, individuals dedicate the conservative portion of their portfolio to self-fund for long-term care. That's usually where the first dollars come from if all of a sudden you have a major income gap because your monthly expenditures have gone up $5,000, $6,000, maybe $10,000 a month. And that is not unusual in this day and age for long-term care. Here are your dollars inside your conservative portfolio. Those are the dollars that probably, in the case of some of you, are dedicated to if I or my spouse and I have long-term care needs, we're going to use. They're committed to the self-funding of our long-term care expense. What if you only needed to take one of them, and it would free up the other two or more to do something else? With an asset-based long-term care plan that is repositioning an asset taking it from a savings account and putting it in one of these contracts, taking it from a mutual fund, very conservative fund, putting it in one of these contracts. If you take a portion of your conservative portfolio and invest it in a linked benefit life insurance contract with a rider, and that's the kind of thing that if we consult with you, we'll get into specifically for your situation. This dollar can become 3 to 1, depending on your age, 4 to 1, 5 to 1, in the event of long-term care. You can leverage your dollars. The allowable contract will spring into providing a stream of tax-free income. So that's another kind of thing that we can talk in a consultation. I'm not going any further. I promised 10 to 12 minutes. I have 11. So I'm going to take one more minute. This works. And even if you don't do it, I think you need to be aware of it. We even have people that have one of the old long-term care type contracts that if you don't use it, you lose it. In other words, nothing happens. With this contract, or these contracts, it's a whole arena. These contracts, if you die, your beneficiaries get more than you put into it. Remember, it doesn't change your balance sheet. You took this asset, you put it over in this contract that allows you to take money out tax-free. If you even want to cash it in, you can get your money back. But why do it if you think you're going to cash it in? What we're suggesting is part of your retirement planning should include an asset-based or linked benefit type of long-term care plan where you simply reposition an asset or 2 assets, 3, so that you can leverage those dollars when a long-term care need triggers the release of the tax-free income. So that's the bonus for tonight. And we believe in planning totally with our clients.